So good morning, everybody. This is 2 minutes before we start our very first Mentality Meets. My name is Peter Larkum, and I've created Mentality, which is an online video course for anybody and everybody. If you are interested and would like to know more about your mental health and how to spot the signs and take action, so spot the signs of other people who may be struggling and be able to engage with them and see what's going on in your life and in their life, then Mentality is a good resource. So if you want to, it's www.mentality.work, and it's a cost just to kind of have an hour's worth of training, 3 modules. What do I see in the person next to me? What do I see in myself? And where do we get help and support? So people are queuing up to come and join us, so I'm going to start letting people in. But I hope you enjoy it. So we have the lovely Joe Love with us today. So Joe, you are unmuted, so do say hello. Say hi.
Oh, hello. Sorry. Hi. Hi. Hello. Oh, there's just more people joining. Hello. Oh, lots of lovely faces. Yes, hello. Welcome. Yeah, we've got a lot to say. I'm sure we'll cover a teeny tiny percentage of what we could talk about, but it's brilliant that you're going to be doing more of these with lots of other people.
Yeah, thank you. So, more people coming in. So anyone who's new, just check out your chat option. So text in some questions or just say, hi, what's your name and where in the world you are. So I've got an iPad 3 from Little Whitchurch. So hi, iPad 3. I don't know who iPad 3 is over there. So also, if you want to be able to see other people, in the top right-hand corner of your screen, if you're on a laptop, you should be able to have speaker view, or what's the other option? Gallery view. So I personally prefer the gallery view because it means you can see everybody. If you're on a phone, you can swipe, and as you swipe, it should be able to show you other people who are joining.
And if you don't, you can turn your camera off, right?
You can turn your camera off if you don't want people to see your face, but it's always nice to see people's faces. So if you do want to turn your camera on, please do. We won't make fun of the way your hair looks or anything else like that just yet. We don't know each other well enough yet. So hi to the Wirral, Shazni, hi, Andy, hi from Kent, Steve, hi from Chatham, and hi from Hornsey. So brilliant, thank you guys. So the way this is going to work is Joe and I are going to talk, and I'm just going to, we're just basically going to have a conversation that you guys can listen into and get as involved as you would like to. If you want to ask us questions, please feel free to do so. We'll try and answer the questions that come through on the chat. And I practiced this with my family yesterday, having not done any of this before. And literally at the 40 minutes, it will shut us down and log all of us off. So just be aware that we may be speaking and it will just cut. But that's at about 11:40, and my hope is that we'll be done and dusted by about 11:30 today. But it is a case of being able to answer the questions and involve everyone as they come in. So welcome, guys, as you've come and joined us. I hope you can hear me. So my name's Peter Larkum. And Joe Love is in the other top corner. So Joe, just say hi so people can see you.
Hello, I'm Joe. Very nice to see everyone, and I'm a mental health advocate. So I talk, write, blog, Instagram, all about mental health, particularly with a bit of a focus on maternal mental health and parental mental health, but really it spans everything. And recently, quite a lot of focus on our digital lives and how we manage our mental health online.
Brilliant. So if you have just joined us and haven't yet found your chat, are you able just to try your chat out, say hi, what your name is, and where in the world you are? So we've got another one just come in for I'm Purpose Phone from Walthamstow. So brilliant, hi and welcome. So there's a good number of us on. So we're now at about 11:05. So I reckon, Joe, we should probably just crack on a little bit.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, just hi and welcome to all of you. We have no idea who you are. We have no idea what your background is, and what your personal journey in the context of mental health is. And the idea of these sessions is, they're called Mentality Meets, which is kind of, I created Mentality, which is an online training course. So I am a mental health trainer, and my job is normally to be the person at the front of the room, delivering training, which is a weird one. So here I am now, in my spare bedroom, talking to you. But so in the fact that we don't know who you are, and we don't know what your history is, we just need to raise an awareness that some of the stuff that we're going through, that we're going to be talking about today, might trigger some stuff for you. If it does, please feel free to take a break, and just kind of either switch your camera off or just kind of take some time out of the room. But also, if you feel like you need more help and more support, then what we want to encourage is two main things, really. So if you work for a company, the likelihood is that you'll have something called an employee assistance program, or an EAP, and that's available for some of the larger companies out there. And that will give you access to counselling within the next 2 weeks. Okay, it's the quickest way of accessing counselling at the moment in the entire UK, and not very many people know that it exists. Another option that is available if you feel like you really need to talk to someone is the IAPT, which is the Improved Access to Psychological Therapies, IAPT. And basically you need to Google IAPT from your local area to find out what the NHS provision is, to access counselling. It's not going to be as quick as 2 weeks, but it will certainly get you on a journey to be able to talk to someone, which at the moment is probably going to be similar to this, as this is as face-to-face as we're going to get at the moment. But it can also do over the phone as well. So just a quick shout out to Nikki from Southampton. Hi. Will from FSM School. So hi and welcome. And Andrew from Salisbury. So thanks to all of you for joining us. So Joe, hi. Oh, you're on mute. Did I mute you? I'm sorry.
Hello.
No, I've unmuted you.
I'm good. While we're doing up the top, another really quick thing I want to talk about is the Hub of Hope as well, which is a brilliant resource if you're struggling and you want to know what's available in your area. It works on your phone, location services, it'll work out exactly where you are and what's available to you now. It might be it's the crisis lines, but it's got full UK coverage, and you can also access it on via desktop, and you just put in your postcode and it'll tell you what's available to you. It's brilliant.
Yes, and of course another option is obviously the Samaritans, who are available 24/7, and their contact number is 116123. And there's also the 24/7 shout text line, which is 82528. Okay, so just being aware of what's going on inside of you as we go through these next few minutes. So Joe, can you just give us a little bit of a background of you? So who are you, and what is your normal day-to-day life before all of this kicked off?
Well, like I said, I'm a mental health advocate, whatever that might mean. I used to be a lawyer, and I had my little girl 5 years ago, and I'd always suffered with mental ill health, but it really came crashing down at that point, and I got to, unfortunately, to the point of suicide. And I just started. It's a very long story, and we don't have enough time here, but it really propelled me in my recovery and post my recovery. See, I'm still working on my mental health now, but to try and help other people. And I always said, if I make one person feel a little bit less alone and a little bit less like they've failed, because for me, it was the combination. I've struggled with depression my whole life, but it was the combination of being a new mum and being expected to be having the most wonderful time of my life and having a mental illness at the same time. It was the combination of the two, and it all came crashing down. So when I started to talk about what I've been through, I realized, number one, there's so many people in the same boat and everybody thinks they're alone. And what I've learned as I've gone on is that is the nature of a lot of the illnesses that we have. is they make you feel isolated, they make you feel like you're alone and it's your fault and you failed, and none of that is true. So I became hugely passionate about trying to spread the message that you haven't failed and you're not alone, and trying to just, if I said if I reach one woman, and it was women back then, but now it's everybody, but if I reach people and I make them feel that slightly little bit less alone, or they know where to get help and they know how to access help, or they just feel like they've not failed, then kind of my job's done. So that's just sort of snowballed like these things are. So now I talk in schools, I talk in corporates like you, from lived experience, but also I try and bring really practical tips of how people can help, because I think there's a lot we can draw from hearing other people's stories, and I think that's wonderful, but there's a lot more we can do, particularly from somebody who has such a lived experience of mental illness, in really, we're going to get on to talking about this, but at the moment we're seeing a lot of people talking about anxiety because of coronavirus, and a lot of people are experiencing worries and potentially going forward mental ill health. But people right now are in a time of uncertainty, and I have spent my whole life doing this, so me being able to potentially help people with some of the tools that have taken me a really long time to work out is just a wonderful opportunity. So I know that didn't quite answer your question, but if I answered your question, I'd take up all of our time.
No, that's brilliant. And the other thing to really highlight on this is that we are not hosting this because we have all the answers. We're not hosting this because we are immune to mental health illnesses. I firmly believe that there is no immunity to mental health illnesses. So mental health is impacting on all of us all the time. And for me as a trainer, I'm very aware that the income has stopped in the context of Corona, and the impact that has. And we were talking just a little bit earlier, Joe, about how easy it is to find yourself waking up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and just trying to figure out what is this new life. And how it's all going to work. Has anyone else out there got kids, and were you on with the Joe Wick PE lesson this morning? If you're on Joe Wick's PE lesson, can you just give us a little shout out? Because me and my 3 boys, 7, 4 and 2, were all doing a workout this morning with Joe Wick's, along with 800,000 other devices around the world, which is just crazy in the context of so many people desperate for some kind of connection with others.
And I do hope, this is slightly diverging from what we're talking about, but I do hope that us doing things like this and you doing things like that, we start to then, whatever our new normal is after this initial limbo, whenever we come out of it, we start to do a lot more of this, because I think the internet has, and especially social media, it gets slammed and there's a lot of negativity, but things like this is brilliant and positive and wonderful, and we need to remember all these things and all these tools when we can see people face to face, but we can also do this, and just connecting is so important.
Yes. And so as we kind of move through this time, a couple of things from my kind of mental health side of things is how do we look after ourselves? In mentality, I talk about that I'm the most important person in my life, which is often met with a little bit of a prickly, but hang on. And the context of it is that actually, if I'm struggling with my mental health, I'm not really able to support those around me. And you were saying that from a mum perspective, that's quite an interesting mindset. So go for it.
Yeah, it can be a really difficult thing to grapple as a parent. Obviously, my perspective is as a mother, but as a parent, to put yourself first because you put your kids first. Like we all do, but we kind of can't 100%, because they are going to naturally get so much of us, and particularly if there's any parents in the group who are now having to homeschool, and if you're in actual lockdown self-isolation, you're going to be in very confined spaces with your kids for potentially a very long period of time, and we need to look after ourselves. There's the adage, we can't pour from an empty cup. We all hear it, but now it's more crucial than ever that we're doing all those things, those self-care moments. And you said actually that you had a very good and I had the similar family conversation with your wife about, we are going to need time out, and we're going to have to work out what that looks like, because she said, and I said also to my family, I can't be on the entire time in these four walls. I have to be able to, even if it's not going to be going outside. I mean, at the moment we still can, but there's got to be ways for me to recharge, and there's got to be ways for all of us to do this. And I think communication in your family unit is really, really, really crucial. But even if you're on your own and self-isolating on your own, kind of having that conversation with yourself of like, okay, what are the things that are going to build me up, be positive? For example, you know, the things that I'm consuming, how much time am I looking at my phone, how much news is going in, do I really need to do that, is my anxiety levels going up in the evening? Really sort of noticing if you're starting to feel uneasy about anything. Are there patterns to that? So is it in the evening? Can you then do some distraction work, or thinking about the Netflix series that you're watching? It's like apocalyptic and doom and gloom. Maybe switch that out for a bit of humor. It sounds really simple, but I think it's really important that we watch those little things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to two of my friends who are normally on the school run who haven't been because they were self-isolating because their daughter had a cough, and both working parents, and kids usually with a childminder and being looked after, and all of a sudden they are now trying to work in the context of being at home with three small people, and they're just like, my head's a constant mash because I don't know how to hear all the stuff that's going on out there and not want to or need to engage and react to it. And so they're saying that they're now working a lot more in the evenings than they ever have done before, because that's when the house is quiet. And my question to them was, but when are you switching off? Are you giving yourself a time to switch off?
No, and I think that's really interesting. And the working from home thing, I know we're not going to touch about it too much, but you can really end up with some very blurred boundaries and lines between people who, and particularly people who aren't used to doing it, of when you're not switching off, and just sadly going to end up in a cycle of burnout. And I think we've all just got to be really, really mindful of that.
So in the context of today, so we're going to be doing this, by the way, we're going to do mentality meets every Monday morning at 11 till 11:30, and every Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock till 3:30. And I chose those times because that's basically when I need a cup of coffee. And I think if I'm going to have a coffee break, most other people will probably have a coffee break at about the same time. So do grab yourself a cup of coffee and a biscuit or a slice of cake, which is always my preference if I'm ever out getting a coffee, which isn't going to happen for a long time. So I need to start baking cakes, I've realised. But yeah, so every Monday, every Thursday, we're going to try and talk about different topics from different people's lived experiences. And also, Joe, you are engaging through Speakers Collective. So I've connected recently with Speakers Collective, which is a fantastic group of individuals who are firm advocates of mental health and recovery from mental health illnesses. And now this I find fascinating. So as a mental health trainer, I am not coming to the table from a lived experience perspective. I'm coming from a training perspective. And so what I am hoping to glean as we go through this time together is a lot more knowledge and understanding around the lived experience side of things, and a lot more around recovery tools in the context of what we're doing. And so I'd really like to ask, in the context of people who may find themselves experiencing more anxiety than they are used to. So the likes of me, who are waking up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning and finding our brains getting sucked into just a negative anxiety. And the example I gave you earlier is that this morning, at some point, whether I was either going to sleep or just waking up at ridiculous o'clock, I went back to a memory of where I was driving and turning into a road, and there was traffic all on the other side of the road. And as I turned, a cyclist came out of nowhere and hit the car and went over the bonnet. And this was back in 2009, you know? And I'm like, why has my brain suddenly gone to 11 years ago? And as I began to kind of sit and ponder it, I was like, okay, that was an anxious situation. This is an anxious situation. Maybe they're connected. And so I want to kind of hear from you in the context of how do we begin to put some tools in place to be able to cope with our anxiety?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I totally relate as well, because I'm finding my brain is doing all sorts of things and bringing up past traumas and past awkward moments, and just really firing things at me at the moment. And I think we know that our brains don't, as humans, we don't like uncertainty, and at the moment our brains are absolutely screaming at us because we're changing everything. We don't like change, but what our brains are brilliant at doing is adapting, and as humans we will adapt and we will find our new normal. But we're in this really awkward limbo, and this limbo for some might be longer than others. So there's sort of two ways that my brain thinks about your question. Is one, if you're feeling really anxious now in that moment, so maybe at 3:00 in the morning, we've all had it, and I think at 3:00 in the morning there's kind of less you can do other than really trying to forgive yourself for having those thoughts. We all are having them, and really observing them, and it's really difficult to do, but just being curious, just not trying to squash them down. Maybe if you were having those at 9:00 at night, you might say, oh, I'll have a glass of wine and try and forget about them, or I might have something to eat, and the comfort. There's no blame if this is what you're doing, but trying to, before you reach for that thing that's comforting your anxiety, try and just observe them and think, where are they coming from? Rationalize them like you did, have gone, oh, actually, this is because everything's uncertain at the moment. So, okay. And it starts to make them feel a little bit better when you're like that. If it's happening during the daytime, there's lots of breathing exercises out there, and we don't have enough time to go through them all. But if you do some YouTubing, there's loads of them. But for me, as long as I think, just stop, breathe, think about my breath, hear my breath, like literally hear my breath. Try and just do some bigger breaths. And as long as I'm breathing out for longer than I'm breathing in, I think that I'm getting some benefit, and it does help calm me down in that moment. Also, if you're feeling a bit trapped and claustrophobic, if that's your anxiety, open a window. I know we don't all have access to green space and gardens, but just open a window, get some fresh air, put your phone down, and get some boundaries around your phone use and the consumption of news, which we were saying. And focus on what you can control, because so much is out of control at the moment. Just think about one thing that you could do just to regain a little bit of control. It's really helpful. And then I think the other part of your question is for people who, so like I said to you before, I have spent my entire life honing I call it like my self-care toolkit, my mental health toolkit, the things that, and they don't always work, and they have changed throughout my life. But I know you probably have been bombarded. You talk about self-care, you've been talking about all these things, but it maybe applying it to other people, or maybe not thinking, well, I'm okay, I am robust, I'm fine. But now it's your time to kind of start trying these things out, get curious with them, like what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Do you like journaling? You've already talked with your wife about having time out, moving, even if you're not exercising, and doing YouTube hit videos, or where you did the Joe Wicks thing with your kids. But what is it that you can do that's just, stretching is just amazing and just a super simple thing. But I think another one for me is this connection thing, which is why I love doing this kind of thing. I love that you're doing this regularly, and the people on this call, I'm definitely going to join, if not the next one, regularly, because I think that's been really, really helpful. And I think when you're feeling out of control and anxious, connecting with somebody who you might spend the whole time talking about it, or you might not, and it's quite a really lovely either way to vent or a really lovely distraction. And I think that can really help. And if you're feeling slightly overwhelmed with this whole thing, you just reaching out and being supportive of someone else as well, because then if and when you need it, then that will come back. And I think that's That's really good. And another little tip, sorry, I feel like I'm really bombarding people, but a tip that I found is it's a proactive thing. So it's setting up with somebody you really, really kind of trust and know. I have it with my best mate, where we have an emoji, you know, the emojis, like I have an emoji code where it's something completely random. And ours is a Petri dish of all things. You know how all the emojis, there's some really weird ones on there. So we picked a Petri dish, and neither of us need to say anything. We just WhatsApp each other a Petri dish if we're just feeling a bit wobbly. And I've also do it with another friend, not for being wobbly, a completely different emoji, just to say I'm thinking about them. And we don't need to get into a long chit chat, blah, 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 blah. How are you? Just, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you. And it's just, you don't even need to type it. It's super lazy. It's basically, I'm lazy, and it's great. It's lazy self-care. But the one with the Petri dish is really, really, I don't know why it's a Petri dish. It's quite embarrassing, really, that it's a Petri dish. There's actually one that's like a little virus, and we're like, thank God we didn't pick that one. Like, God. I know. But that's a really, really quick, and it really does work, because we just then go into not overdrive, but okay, you know, do you want to talk? No, let's just distract. And it's a really nice thing to have set up. It's sort of your support network. So I really recommend that one.
Amazing. So we've got about 2 minutes before all of this kind of comes to an end. And it really is about, so in the context of connecting at the moment, finding, I want to use the phrase, that lifeline, which it really can be. And from what I'm hearing from you, it's about finding someone that you can be honest with, that you can be raw with, possibly gnarly with. That's a great word. When you just need to reach out, even if it's just to be on the end of something like this and not necessarily even say anything, but someone that you can connect to. And the other side of it for me is I want to present the opportunity for people to contact me and connect with me, because kind of my job is now this. And now I'm not a professional counsellor, because that's 4 years at university, which is not my thing. But I can listen. I can listen, and I can chat, and I can point you in the direction if you need it, you know, and encourage you to access professional help through counselling or therapy, or just to try some stuff. And I'm sure there are many other people out there who can do the same. So guys, I just want to say thank you so much for your time this morning as we come to a close. Jo, are there any final thoughts from you?
I would say, just also, because we don't know who's on the call, quite what the demographic. I recognise a few faces, but just really, if you're struggling, if you're going through a bad time, this is just such a strange time to be struggling, but just really celebrate the small wins. Like, if all you did was get up and have a shower and you're at your lowest point, that is amazing. And don't beat yourself up. All this social media chat about having to do all these, I mean, although it is good to do all the workouts and do everything, but just take it back to basics. Eat well, try and eat well, try and sleep well, and, you know, drink lots of water. But if all you did is get up, that's all you did. That is fine.
Amazing. Jo Love, thank you so much. Thank you everybody who has been on the call. So I am Peter Larkum, and you can access me through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or loads of places, but also Mentality. So if you want to find out more about your mental health, to understand what to see in other people, understand what to see in yourself, then do head over to mentality.work and have a look at that as a resource. But guys, I'm going to call this to an end and just say thank you so much for your time. So take care, God bless, and bye-bye now.
Nice to see you.